Hello, I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. This is A World Gone Mad. Another Monday fallout, where the weekend's lies meet Monday's reality. All right, let's talk about what happened in the last 48 hours. No BS, no spin, no fake talking points. Here we go. The Supreme Court signals it will give Trump more control of government. The Supreme Court is acting like it found a new hobby, and that hobby is gift wrapping unlimited power for Donald Trump like it's Christmas morning at Mar-a-Lago. They're not interpreting the Constitution anymore. They're holding it by the ankles, shaking it until all the guardrails fall out of its pockets. And today they took it even further. This wasn't a hint. This wasn't a signal. This was the court practically standing up in their robes saying, "Come on in, Mr. President. We've warmed the seat for you." A majority of the court spent more than 2 hours leading into Trump's argument that he should be able to fire the heads of independent agencies like the Federal Trade Commission anytime he feels like it. No process, no protection, no independence, just Trump deciding he's had enough and snapping his fingers. Justice Brett Kavanaugh questioned whether these agencies should even exist in their current form if they're not accountable to the people, which is code for accountable to the president and nobody else. Kavanaugh pointed out that these agencies exercise massive power over individual liberty and billion-dollar industries. Translation: if they're powerful enough to annoy the president, then Trump should get to chop off their heads whenever he's in the mood. Chief Justice John Roberts jumped in, basically told Rebecca Kelly Slaughter's attorney that the 1935 case protecting the independent agencies might not mean anything anymore because the modern FTC has more executive power. Meaning Trump should get to fire them on sight because apparently independence is now an outdated concept. And then the conservative bloc tried to downplay the whole thing. Justice Alito asked the Solicitor General if the entire structure of government would fall if the court sided with Trump. And the Solicitor General smiled and said, "The sky will not fall," which is adorable. Because of course it'll fall. It'll fall politely. It'll fall softly. It'll fall like a collapsing building that someone covered in velvet to make it look less violent. Because once you tell Trump he can fire independent agency heads at will, you've destroyed the whole idea of independence. And that brings us to the bigger picture. This court is pulling on every thread that keeps a president from becoming a king. Immunity cases, executive power cases, and now the power to fire the leaders of agencies that were designed specifically to be shielded from political tantrums. Add all of it together and you don't get a president, you get a throne. The Supreme Court isn't behaving like an independent branch of government. It's behaving like the president's legal hype crew. Every delay buys Donald time. Every hearing pushes accountability further away. It feels like they're running the clock for Trump so he can continue operating above the law without anyone managing to catch up. The Supreme Court is not the guardrail anymore. They're the valet at the front door whispering, "Welcome back, sir. Your table is ready." And here's the reality. If the Supreme Court hands Trump immunity and the unchecked power to fire independent agency heads, then the presidency no longer sits inside the Constitution. It operates outside it entirely. Like a raccoon rummaging through the garbage cans of democracy, looking for the last scraps of restraint. And Trump has already told the world what he'll do with that power. Loyalty tests, agency purges, military obedience, a Justice Department that functions like a personal cleanup crew. Trump won't hide any of it. He'll brag about it because he'll know nothing can stop him. The bottom line, The Supreme Court isn't deciding narrow questions. It's deciding whether the presidency becomes a weapon, whether one man becomes untouchable, whether the law still applies to the person sitting in the Oval Office. And today's hearing was the clearest sign yet that the Supreme Court is ready to hand Trump everything he's ever wanted. And if that wasn't enough, Republicans in Congress are doing their favorite magic trick again. They're pretending they care about health care while quietly trying to slip a bear trap under the table. And they're smiling while they do it, like they think we can't see the giant teeth sticking out of the sides. Two Republican senators, Susan Collins in Maine, here we go, and Bernie Moreno in Ohio, just rolled out a brand new bill to extend the Affordable Care Act subsidies for 2 years. Sounds good for about 5 seconds. Then you realize they glued a whole list of Republican demands onto it. Income caps, mandated premiums, all the little poison pills they've been stockpiling like a political doomsday prepper. And here's where the story gets wild. Remember the Democrats, the 6 people who actually work with Republicans to reopen the government because Republicans promised the Senate would take a vote around December 14th on extending the ACA subsidies? That was the deal. That was the handshake. That was the moment in the movie where you think, maybe they'll act like adults. Spoiler alert, they didn't. Now Republicans are shrugging, saying, yeah, we're probably not voting on our own bill. Not this week. Maybe not anytime soon. Maybe never. Republicans are saying they have plenty of ideas, and they'll talk about them when they feel like it, which is political code for go sit quietly in the corner while we waste more time doing absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, Democrats are getting a vote this week on their version, a clean 3-year extension of the Affordable Care Act subsidies with no Republican edits, no booby traps, no surprise signatures from Satan. Just an extension of benefits that millions of Americans rely on to stay alive. Now, that vote could be Thursday. Maybe. If Republicans don't move the goalposts again like they're warming up for the track and field qualifiers. And here's the punchline. Republicans agreed to let Democrats have that vote because they thought it would fail. They thought it would flop like a dead fish on a dock. They saw it as a messaging vote, a throwaway vote, something they could mock later on Fox News between commercials for gold bars and American flags. But now that the vote is actually happening, you can feel the panic in the building. Because Republicans know Americans like their health care. They know these subsidies matter. And Republicans know they're the ones playing games while families are sitting at their kitchen table wondering how the hell they're supposed to afford a doctor next year. So let's be clear. This Republican bill isn't serious. It's a prop, a talking point, a political participation trophy. A way to say, look, we have a plan, while making sure their plan never gets within 50 feet of an actual vote. And at the same time, Republicans are trying to take credit for being willing to negotiate even though they had to be dragged back to work like a teenager being told to do the dishes. The reality is Republicans promised a vote to get the government open. Now they're trying to wiggle out of it like they're auditioning for a circus act. Democrats are bringing their bill to the floor anyway, and the American people are about to get a front row seat to one of the oldest games in Washington. The game where Republicans yell about health care while working overtime to make sure you never get any of it. Speaking of crazy, Marjorie Taylor Greene, you remember Marjorie Taylor Loonball Greene, is doing something we've literally never seen from her. She's pretending to have a conscience. And I know, that sentence alone sounds like satire. But here we are, because suddenly Greene is standing on national television acting like she's the brave truth teller in a Republican Party that turned into a cult with merch. She sat down for her first interview since announcing she's quitting Congress and delivers this whole "I won't be silenced" performance. And the headline she wants everyone to swallow is this: Trump is furious with her because she supported releasing every file related to Jeffrey Epstein. All of it. Every page. And Marjorie Taylor Greene's now positioning herself as the champion of the survivors, the fearless warrior of transparency, the moral lighthouse in a storm she helped create. Let's be clear. This is the same Marjorie Taylor Greene who spent years pushing conspiracies like they were vitamins. The same Greene who treated empathy like a foreign language. The same Greene who bullied, mocked, screamed, and rage posted her way into Republican superstardom. And now she wants us to believe she's Joan of Arc fighting the darkness. Please. She said Trump warned her that releasing Epstein's files would hurt people. And she proudly repeats that like she's just uncovered corruption instead of accidentally wandering into the truth for the first time in her political career. The man she worshipped, Trump. The man she defended. The man she elevated as the chosen one. Suddenly Greene's shocked that Trump's worried transparency might be a little inconvenient. And the breakup didn't stop there. Trump called Greene a traitor, promised to back someone to take her seat, turned on her like she was old inventory, and Greene's acting like she's discovering for the first time that loyalty to Trump is a one-way street that ends at a cliff. Greene says her GOP colleagues are terrified of Trump, terrified of getting torched on Truth Social, terrified of stepping out of line. This is the woman who used to laugh right along with these Republicans. And now Greene's the whistleblower. She says behind closed doors, Republicans mock Trump, mock his voice, mock her for supporting Trump. But the moment Trump won the primary, they all snapped on MAGA hats like a synchronized swimming team sponsored by cowardice. And now Marjorie Taylor Greene's shocked that the death threats she used to blame on the left are suddenly coming from the right. Welcome to the monster you helped feed. This is what happens when your entire political identity is built on rage. It never stays in the cage you think it will. It comes home. The bottom line, Marjorie Taylor Greene wants America to believe this is her awakening, her moment of clarity, her conscience coming online after years of being unplugged. And maybe she does mean some of it. Maybe she genuinely wants the Epstein files released. But let's not pretend this is a redemption arc. This is damage control. This is survival instinct. This is what happens when the beast Greene cheered for finally turns and takes a bite out of her. And now she's standing in the wreckage, trying to convince us she was one of the good guys the entire time. President Trump woke up today and said, you know what this country needs? Fewer brakes on anything, especially on artificial intelligence. So Trump confirmed he's signing an executive order that blocks every state in America from regulating AI. Every single state. 50 states standing there like, excuse me, we have concerns. And Trump basically telling them, you could write those concerns on a napkin, throw them into the ocean. And Trump posted it on Truth Social with the enthusiasm of a man pitching the world's worst superhero movie. Donald said there must be only one rule book if we're going to continue to lead in AI, artificial intelligence. One rule book. His. Which is always a good sign when Trump wants to take a fast-evolving world-altering technology and say, let's regulate it like a lemonade stand. Critics are terrified for a very specific reason. AI already has almost no oversight. It's making medical decisions, it's screening job applicants, it's generating deep fakes that can make your grandmother confess to being a Russian asset. And Trump wants even less regulation. He wants AI companies to move through society like a Roomba with a chainsaw strapped to the top. States stepped in because Congress is doing the legislative version of staring at the ceiling and waiting for someone else to act. So states passed laws against deepfake abuse, hiring discrimination, and creepy algorithms that try to psychoanalyze your love life. And Trump is saying, nope, we're wiping all that clean. AI needs freedom, freedom to innovate, freedom to disrupt, freedom to ruin your life in 15 milliseconds. And Silicon Valley is thrilled. They love this. They're standing there like parents cheering when their toddler picks up a nail gun. But here's where the whole thing goes completely off the rails. Silicon Valley leaders like OpenAI CEO Sam Altman keep warning that a patchwork of state regulations will slow down innovation and hurt America's ability to compete. And this is the same Sam Altman who spent the last 2 years sounding the alarm that AI could destroy jobs, destabilize society, and basically unleash a digital terminator if we don't regulate it fast enough. So Altman is telling states not to regulate AI because it slows him down, while also telling the world AI must be regulated before it kills us. It's the tech bro version of yelling fire in a theater while begging the fire marshal to stop checking the sprinklers. The draft order even creates an AI litigation task force. That is the most Trump administration phrase ever. A task force whose whole job is to go after states that try to keep their citizens from being devoured by the algorithm. It's like if Skynet hired lawyers. And then Trump throws in the line that if AI has to deal with 50 state approvals, AI will be destroyed in its infancy. Destroyed, he said, like a baby dragon that never had a chance to scorch the village. Trump talks about AI like it's a fragile, endangered species, when in reality it is the one doing the endangering. So now critics are sounding every alarm possible. Safety groups, tech workers, teachers, child advocates, labor unions, conservatives like Ron DeSantis from Florida, who thinks this looks like federal overreach. When DeSantis says Washington is overreaching, you know the government is reaching so far, it is pulling change out of people's pockets. And here's the absurdity we're living through, Wolfpack listeners. We're watching the president say he wants one set of rules while AI is generating false images of children and telling vulnerable people to harm themselves. While companies are using algorithms to inflate prices, while energy-hungry data centers are crushing local power grids. And Trump's solution is to remove the last tiny scraps of protection and trust the corporations to behave themselves. We're in the Terminator prequel. This is the part where someone in Congress should be shouting, "Stop creating the conditions for a robot uprising." But Congress already killed an attempt to block state regulation in July, then shrugged and went home for recess. The reality of all this? This executive order isn't innovation, it's surrender. It hands the most powerful technology humans have ever created to big tech with a little card that says, "Please be nice." Trump is stripping states of the only working brakes on the AI machine and telling the country to enjoy the ride. And when Skynet finally wakes up, it's going to send Donald Trump a fruit basket. One last interesting bit of news for all the Wolfpack listeners, in case you haven't heard. U.S. Representative Jasmine Crockett filed Monday to run for U.S. Senate from Texas in 2026. Very interesting. And that's your Monday Fallout. You know how to reach me. I've given you my email address and my toll-free number multiple times. It's up to you to use them if you'd like to comment about anything I've talked about in this episode, or just to give your opinion, or just to say hello to me. That would be nice. Please don't forget my show streaming live on TikTok this Tuesday, 9:15 p.m. I invite you to join in. It does get lively. And if you'd like to contribute with a small donation to my podcast before the holidays, I have a link below each description of every episode. And I've said multiple times, this is purely optional. But every little donation from you truly helps. This is The World Gone Mad. I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. I'll be back Wednesday. Until then, Wolfpack listeners, remain skeptical, keep focused, but most of all, stay hopeful.